Prayers are a way to alchemize a belief and then transform our energy. When we transform our energy through prayer, we then start to change our point of attraction. We begin to believe something new, feel something new. And in the presence of that new belief system and that new energy, we begin to attract what's new.
And there it is. And there's manifestation. This podcast is called Reconditioned because this is the place where you'll learn how to truly recondition your entire life. Where other wellness podcasts or platforms focus on one particular area of wellness or inner growth, Reconditioned is a one-stop shop for all of it, so that you can get all the information you need to heal and up-level the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual aspects of your life in one place. Because that's what I needed when I was healing from the arthritis I had from the age of 2 that left me disabled by 18. I got myself to a place of complete wellness after a very long journey of immersion into the world of healing, where I learned how to heal the whole self. My purpose now is about bringing that to you, and my Rise membership is an extension of that. For women who want to take their wellness and growth to the next level, there really is nothing out there like it. You'll be part of a global community of like-minded women with access to 14 modules that literally take you through everything you ever need to learn in order to bring your life to a place of balance and abundance. With group coaching calls with me, personalized support, community book club, and so much more. Rise becomes part of your life, your lifestyle, enabling you to thrive in the ways you always dreamed, with me right there beside you, championing you through your journey. It's not always open for enrollment, so if you're hearing this now, it's open and ready for you to enroll. Just go to the show notes for the link or visit laurenvakneen.co.uk/rise. Welcome back, everyone, to Reconditioned with me, Lauren Vakneen. Have I got a corker for you today? A real manifestation on my part to have Gabby on the podcast, Gabby Bernstein. For those of you who haven't heard of her, you must have been hiding under a rock this past decade. She's a very, very well-known, successful spiritual teacher. She's been on Oprah's Super Soul Sundays. She has published 9 books. I read out her bio at the beginning, so you can get it all from there. More than that, she's a really lovely human who is on a quest, a mission to heal, to show others how to heal, to inspire others to move more deeply into their own spirituality. And we had such a beautiful, open, honest conversation. I was very conscious going into this interview that she's been interviewed so many times, and most people want to, well, from my perspective anyway, from what I've heard, most people want to hear from her in regards to manifestation, because she wrote an amazing book called Super Attractor, which is an incredible book all about manifestation. And I think a lot of people want to hear from her about manifestation because everyone wants to know how to manifest more. I wanted to talk to her about trauma because she has gone through a lot of trauma and she's come through the other side of a lot of trauma. Not that there's ever any, other side in terms of there we go, we're fully healed and that's done with. But in terms of getting herself to a place where she feels like she's in balance after severe, extreme traumas, which she talks about in her book, Happy Days. And through reading Happy Days, I just got more of a glimpse into how she's used her spiritual practices to help her heal. And as all of you know who listen to this podcast a lot, or my Rise members, anyone on my Rise membership will know, healing trauma, uncovering repressed emotions is, that's my jam. It's everything to me. I don't believe we can fully manifest. I mean, we can manifest some stuff, of course. Like, you don't have to be, and there's this misconception in the kind of pop spiritual, Instagram spiritual world of, you got to heal everything and be fully healed and then you'll manifest $1 million. You don't have to be fully healed to manifest, because Who out of us is ever fully healed? Because we're constantly going through stuff as well, right? The collective traumas happening in the world are also part of what's going to inform what's going on in our lives. So, but the point is getting to a point where we have spent time going into the shadow, going into the depths of ourselves that we don't want to see, but we don't realize we don't want to see, which is shadow work. And with Gabby, I talk about IFS, internal family systems. That's a form of therapy that she adopted by Richard Schwartz, which is an incredible form of therapy about recognizing the unseen parts of you. So for me, that's very much like shadow work. It's just got its own kind of structure and terminology, like the exiled parts, which for me is so shadow work, right? That we've all got these shadow aspects that I talk about. We've got a whole module on shadow in the Rise membership, and we talk about those shadow aspects, the parts of us that have been banished into the shadows, as it were. And in IFS, they're called the exiled parts. And then you've got the protector parts. And I find, and it's just really nice talking about it, having another way to explore shadow. So that was a really fun part of the conversation, but really just getting, deep and honest in how we manage trauma in the modern day, how we can understand how trauma helps us to heal further, and how we manage kind of, the collective trauma that we're all experiencing right now, and allow that to help us heal further. Because for me, so what does healing even mean? For me, what's going on in the world right now has been another reminder to stand in my power, for my energy to contribute something positive to the world, not something negative, not to get caught up in the he said, she said, they're right, this one's right, that one's right, and the divisiveness. And so we had this beautiful exchange about that, with Gabby offering her wisdom. And, obviously she's got so much experience on the subject, having spoken about this for so many years and written so many books about it. So it was a beautiful conversation. And for any Gabby fans, if you're tuning in because you've come from Gabby, welcome to Recondition. Thank you for being here. I hope you find this episode expansive. I hope that I was able to offer something that you haven't heard from Gabby before, perhaps. And for my OG listeners, thank you for sticking with me, and I hope you enjoy this episode. And if you enjoy it, of course, let me know on Instagram or comment on the podcast. Please leave a rating and a review. It really, really helps more people find the podcast. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate every rating and review that we get on the podcast, whether that's through Spotify, whether that's through Apple. I truly, truly appreciate all of them. So thank you for being here, and I will leave you with Gabby Bernstein. Fun fact, humans take in more information in one day now than they did in their entire lives in the 1700s. No wonder we're overwhelmed. Our brains and bodies simply haven't evolved to manage this level of stress. And until that evolution happens, if we want to be well in mind and body, we need things that help alleviate this stress. For me, one of the key tools in my daily wellness toolkit that does this is the Sensate. And if you've been here a while, you'll know how genuinely obsessed I am with this product. It is a piece of health tech that fits in the palm of your hand, and it basically sends infrasonic waves through the chest to activate the vagus nerve and calm the autonomic nervous system while you listen to the specially composed audio within the app. I usually use the Sensate for 10 to 20 minutes before I sleep to reduce cortisol levels, calm my brainwave states from the hectic day, and send me into a deep sleep. Clients or friends of mine who have a Sensate have told me that their sleep has never been so good. People who usually struggle with sleep just wake up in the same position they went to sleep in. Everyone needs a Sensate, in my opinion, and I particularly recommend it to anyone who suffers from overwhelm or anxiety, and anyone who wants to deepen their meditation practice. And you can get £30 off the Sensate by visiting getsensate.com and using code Lauren30. That's GETSENSATE.com, Lauren30. Thank you so much to Sensate for supporting our mission here at Reconditioned. For more than 18 years, Gabby Bernstein has been transforming lives, including her own. The #1 New York Times bestselling author has penned 9 books, including The Universe Has Your Back, Super Attractor, and Happy Days. Gabby was featured on Oprah's Super Soul Sunday as a new thought leader. The New York Times identified Gabby as a role model for a new generation of spiritual seekers. In 2023, she launched the innovative Gabby Coaching app, allowing her to be your spiritual coach anytime, anywhere. In her weekly podcast, Dear Gabby, she offers up real-time coaching, straight talk, and conversations about personal growth and spirituality. From her start hosting intimate conversations with 20 people in her New York City apartment, Gabby has grown to speaking to tens of thousands in sold-out venues throughout the world. So welcome, Gabby. It's such an honor to have you here.
So nice to be with you. So good to be with you.
It's amazing to have you here.
It took us a minute to get it together, and here we are.
It took us a while, but as we said before we recorded, it's all in divine timing, right?
Exactly. It's perfect timing. I'm thrilled. Yeah.
So, Gabby, what have you done so far today to support your wellness?
Well, I've had my shake, my morning protein and microbiome shake. I had 5 minutes of breath before my child jumped on my head to wake me up, literally. You know what I'm talking about.
I know, yeah.
I put a little red light on my face, and while I was getting my coffee, I did some ice rolling on my face. I sound like every wellness girl on the internet, but
Literally.
I did. And
But it works.
I'm into all the things. It feels good to me, you know?
Right.
So here we are.
Do you find the time to fit those things in around motherhood? And you've obviously got a very, very busy job.
I do a pretty good job of finding good time for myself. I really do. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
I have, the blessing of having a very hands-on husband and, and one child. It's, one child's a blessing for me. It really is.
Yeah, I find it's also about kind of prioritizing like what's going. And my clients always ask me this, how do you fit in all the things? I'm like, you don't. But you wake up every morning and you say, what do I need to prioritize today? What's going to serve me the most? So which practices do I need to do today that will serve me most?
Yeah. Keeping it in the day is my motto.
Totally. So obviously a lot of people want to hear from you about manifestation. It's a topic that you are an expert on, but I'd love to start and maybe even stay with the subject of trauma and aligning yourself spiritually through trauma, because you wrote an amazing book called Happy Days, which is right there behind me, which I love. I have the whole thing dog-eared and underlined. So, and it's about your own trauma and navigating through trauma with a spiritual practice. And I'm so interested in that, because I think what happens is very easy to have a spiritual practice and a self-care practice when things are going great. When things aren't going so great, it's very easy to fall off the wagon. And something I've learned, I've been on a shamanic apprenticeship with a Toltec shaman for 3.5 years. And I thought I knew spirituality before. This has been, another level. And what it's shown me is that we're almost forced to these traumas in order to move deeper into our spiritual practice. And I just wonder, based on you being a spiritual teacher and very into your practices, even before you went so deep into your traumas, how has your spiritual practice and the way you teach about spirituality changed as a result of that?
Oh, well, big time. I think that's a beautiful question. I really appreciate that question. So I want to soften that a little, because I think that I agree with you that we have these experiences in our life, and they are an opportunity for not only transformational personal growth, but also great spiritual awakening and development. But I want to make sure that we don't say, or I wouldn't say we're forced into it, because I think that could be really triggering for somebody who's had trauma, right? To think that they're forced into these experiences. I think that we can look at it from a spiritual perspective and say that we've been gifted these experiences, as difficult as they may have been, as a opportunity for personal development and spiritual growth. And I can say that with a lot of confidence now at 44 years old, having been consciously aware of the trauma since I was 36 years old, but living with trauma since I was 6 years old, or really might have been earlier. I'm not exactly sure of the exact timeline. Mm-hmm. And so understanding and recognizing now on the other side of this, right? So a lot of people listening very well are not on the other side of their trauma. I am going to consistently be in the pursuit of developing more safety inside, but I'm on the other side in a big way. And on the other side, I can say that I wouldn't change a thing, that I'm deeply grateful for the experiences from my past because they've made me who I am. And that, to your point, have given me such an opportunity for spiritual development and personal growth. And so throughout the book, Happy Days, which it means a lot to me that you have it behind you, because that means, one, that you're very devoted to your own personal development, if that's a book that you're choosing to pick up and read. And so bravo to you. And two, because that book is my journey from trauma to profound freedom and inner peace. And in that book, I share all the spiritually aligned therapeutic practices that brought me back to safety. But most importantly, what I share in that book is that it is the spiritual faith that has been the through line throughout my life, and particularly throughout my personal development and my healing of the trauma. Mm-hmm. And if it were not for that faith, I don't think I would have had the inspiration to wake up in the morning. Without that faith, I wouldn't have had the will to carry on. Without that faith, I probably would have gotten sucked back into destructive patterns and addictive behavior. But that faith is what helped me get clean and sober. That faith is what held me like a blanket when I remembered this childhood trauma from my past at 36 years old, remembered it in a dream. That faith has been the through line. And that faith has expanded and developed massively as a result of being in the devotional commitment of my own healing.
Were you raised with faith? Because where did this faith come from when you were in the depths of addiction? Even in that space, you still had this faith. You still had a spiritual practice.
Yeah, I was raised with spiritual faith, not necessarily. I was really raised as a Reformed Jew, and I loved my religion from the community element of it. I loved being a leader. I was a real leader in the Jewish community, at the regional youth community in my county, and so I was very active from that standpoint. With regard to spiritual faith, yes, I was raised with spiritual faith. My mother brought me to ashrams. I was taught to meditate as a child. I was introduced to the non-physical in my own meditation practices, just feeling my extremities tingle and feeling the presence of an energy beyond my physical sight in my space. And so that was a developed, innate quality that happened at a young age. That's not common for most people. These days, maybe more so than others, but not typically common.
One of the holistic living challenges I spent years researching and trying to figure out was how to keep teeth healthy without fluoride and which fluoride-free natural toothpaste to use. I've found a few over the years that I've liked, but I've finally found a brand that does a toothpaste that me and my husband love, and a kids one that not only has all the perfect ingredients to keep their teeth and gums healthy naturally, but that they love. The toothpastes are by Wellness, which is the brand created by Katie Wells, aka Wellness Mama, who we love here at Reconditioned. I'm such a fan of these toothpastes, and I would love you to give them a go. And no, they're not as cheap as Colgate, and for good reason. But you can get 10% off by visiting health.com/LaurenV10. That's health with an F, HEALF.com/LaurenV10. And that will apply a 10% discount to anything in your basket, not just wellness products. Please report back to me and let me know how you find these toothpastes. Yeah. So, yeah, because I love when I was reading your book, and I've heard you talk about this on other podcasts as well. And that's something that stands out for me is that, like, even, and I hear Russell Brand talk about this, he's spoken about this for years, even in the depths of homelessness and addiction, he never broke his devotion to vegetarianism and like whatever it is that's the thing that keeps us, And I feel like there must be a huge, higher power that keeps that in us. And I guess it was the same with me, like having faith that I would heal from disability is what kept me going. So it's just interesting, I guess, to see, because in that depth, the depth of trauma, it's very easy to lose hope and lose faith. So
Yeah.
that brings me to surrender, because a question that I get asked a lot from my clients is, okay, like I get that I need to surrender, but how do I actually surrender? Like,
Yeah.
how do we trust source, God, the universe, to show up for us regardless of how bad things are? And I'd love to know how you do surrender.
Okay. Well, I think that surrender sometimes can get a bad rap because people think, oh, I'm giving up, right?
Right.
On what I want or what I desire or whatever it might be. But I think that surrender is not giving up, it's a giving over. And
Mm-hmm.
so to fully and faithfully surrender, it's helpful to have some form of faith of a higher power of your own, and a belief that there is an energetic presence that's there supporting you and guiding you, whether you believe in angels, whether you believe in God, whether you believe in the universe, whether you believe that your grandmother is there supporting you. Whatever those faithful beliefs are, give you the opportunity to take whatever it is that's in your way, whether it be a belief system, whether it be a traumatic memory, whether it be just something that you're focused on that you don't want to hold, whether it be grasping onto a manifestation or a desire, giving it over becomes available to you when you trust that there is a presence beyond you to give it over to.
Mm.
So that's not something that necessarily comes easily for people. So I love in the 12 steps, they say, fake it till you make it. So,
Mm.
for years when I was early in my sobriety, I've been sober now 19 years or almost 19 years. And early in my recovery in sobriety, my sponsor would say, get on your knees and pray to God. And I didn't know what the fuck God was. I was like, what's God? But I would get on my knees and I would fake it till I make it. I would literally humbly get on my knees and say, God, thank you for taking this from me. Thank you for reorganizing this for me. Thank you for helping me see this differently. And just being in that devotional practice of humbly getting on my knees, offering it up to a higher power that maybe didn't mean much to me at the time, but it was something I was willing to be open to, really helped me begin the journey of developing that, strengthening that faith. And
Mm.
so that faith is a practice. Faith is a muscle. It doesn't come overnight. And I've written now 10 books on the topics of how to have spiritual faith and connect to the presence of the universe. And so I wouldn't say to anybody, don't start, just start now. Start
Mm.
giving it over now, even if it doesn't totally make sense to you.
Mm. And there's a lovely prayer that you offer in the book, which is, thank you, universe, for guiding me on this path to becoming you. I honor this vision of how I want to feel. I'm willing to receive guidance now. I love that one. Yeah.
It just made me feel good when you read it. That just made
Oh.
me feel so good. Just
Yeah, it's
thinking,
a good one. I wrote it down and I kind of keep looking back at it because I think it's like we have all these big ideas about how it's about moving, I think, from the masculine of how do I do this? And like, let me create a spreadsheet of how to do it, into like the feminine of flow of just say a prayer and just try and believe it. Just let your body feel that prayer as opposed to trying to think it with your mind and with your brain. And and when I read prayers like that, or I give prayers like that myself, it reminds me to just feel into it. And then the trust is a little bit easier, I think.
yeah, and I really like what you just said, which is feel into the prayer, because
Mhm.
prayers are just an energy field. When prayers are a way to alchemize a belief and then transform our energy.
Mm.
When we transform our energy through prayer, we then start to change our point of attraction.
Mm.
We begin to believe something new, feel something new. And in the presence of that new belief system and that new energy, we begin to attract what's new.
And there it is. And there's manifestation.
Mhm.
Right. Yeah. And that's potentially the biggest lesson we ever need on manifestation.
That's the whole thing.
Yeah. But you've written all these books on it, but really that's it, right?
Hey, baby, you nailed it.
Yeah. So something that I really wanted to ask you, and I'm so glad. It's so lovely. I get to have you here and get to ask you all these questions that you can guide me in as well. We're talking about trust and surrender, and how spiritual practice can help us trust in every situation, in every situation we're in, however bad, whether that's in our own lives, but also in the world. And I'd love to know how you've approached the traumatic situations going on in the world right now with that element of trust and surrender.
Yeah, what a beautiful question. I love this conversation very much, and I really appreciate you. Um, so the world is in trauma. It always has been. It's just becomes more visible, more extreme. I think that none of this is new.
Mm-hmm.
Been going on forever. I will say though that the constant hit of the trauma through our phones, through our access, is very damaging to our nervous system and to our presence on a molecular level. With that said, none of us should be apathetic about what's happening in the world. So my approach is to not only lean on my prayer and my faith, trust that my energy is what I can contribute. So when you're living through trauma, having a clear path of purpose is extremely valuable. And so my recognition, and I can only speak for myself, and also just as a spiritual activist wanting to teach others, is that while I may not have control about what's happening in certain regions of the world, what I do have is the control of the energy I bring forth today.
Mm-hmm.
Who am I elevating today? What am I doing to elevate my own energy today? We are all either contributing to the cause of good energetic frequency, or we are contributing to the cause of more trauma and negative frequency. Mm-hmm. That is the law. That is what is happening internally. That is what is happening from a quantum physics perspective. We bring our energy. And so right. Every person you meet, you have the ability to impact with a positive vibration or a low vibration. Mm-hmm. And so the work we can do as people who may not be in the political realm, or we may not have the ability to make big change that will affect war, or that will affect poverty, or that will affect, we can feel very powerless when these issues are presented to us. Mm-hmm. The change that we can make is a change to our energy field. And when we make that change, what happens is we have inspired ideas. And those inspired ideas say, oh, you know what? Go work for that charity right now. Or those inspired ideas may say, you have extra cash, go donate it here. Or those inspired ideas may say, make sure you're getting behind that politician, because that politician is the one that's going to make the change. Put your energy into that. And so if you're in a low vibration and feeling powerless, then you're doing nothing. Then you're stagnant and you're contributing to the problem. Mm-hmm. If you're in a higher energetic state, you're in a positive belief system, and you're recognizing that your presence is your power, then that activates a part of you that can feel empowered to do good things. And those good things could be as simple as connecting to your local politicians. They could be as simple as helping out in a local charity. They could be as simple as being of higher service to the children that you have in your life, because you're developing the next generation of leaders. So everything we do counts. Mm-hmm. And if we're looking at this as a collective and a big, vast group of humans throughout this world, we all have to do our part energetically first. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that's really tricky is there's a lot of people thinking they're doing and doing and doing and fighting the good fight, but they're actually infusing a lot of negative energy.
Right.
And a lot more hate and judgment. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of activists out there that are very mean. Mm-hmm. That doesn't work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Malcolm X chose not to be mean, right? You know, chose to align with others.
Well, I think if we think of all those sort of leaders, you know, Gandhi, 100%. Martin Luther King,
100%,
Nelson Mandela.
Yeah, it doesn't. And a lot of people might roll their eyes and be like, "Oh, no, we got to fight the good fight." Okay, how's that working out for you?
Right. Yeah, and also, you know, my shaman explains it in a beautiful way that you can look at the monk sitting on top of the mountain, and I think this is kind of another point within what you've just said. and say, well, why is he not down on the ground helping us? Like, what is he doing up there meditating on a mountain? It's not actually helping us. But by him raising his own frequency, he's raising the frequency of the collective, of the planet, of, you know, the energy field around all of us. So by each individual person raising their frequency, not contributing to division, to hatred, to, you know, violence, to violent thoughts even, we are contributing to peace.
And we're listening, because we can't take activist actions from a place of our ego and our trauma, because we create more trauma.
Right.
So if we are developing a practice of faith and spiritual connection, what we're doing is we're opening up our capacity to listen to our inner guidance system. And when we take action from the places of our intuitive inner guide, then those actions have a lot more power. So it's not so much about how much are you doing, it's about what is the energy behind what you're doing. And we should be doing things, right? We should be getting people out to vote. We should be showing up and helping our local politicians. We should be. I mean, I hate the word should, but yeah, we got to show up. But if we show up from the frequency of trauma and fighting, we're just creating more of that. If we show up from an aligned, spiritually aligned place, then we have a lot more power wherever we go.
So sorry to interrupt the episode, but this really is a public health service announcement. If you're trying to improve or optimize your health, you might be missing the crucial ingredient that most people don't realize they need. You see, it's not vitamin D you need to be supplementing. The mineral we are most lacking and need so much more of in order to be able to synthesize that vitamin D from the sun is copper. Without copper, which gives us retinol, we literally cannot absorb the fat-soluble vitamins A, D, and K. And the iron in our bodies is not distributed effectively because copper is what transports iron around the blood. So it's not that we're anemic, it's that we are low in copper. Without adequate absorption of all these minerals, your health can never be optimal. So many people I've worked with feel like they've tried everything, and simply introducing Recuperate IQ, which is a very specific formulation of copper and other ingredients, improved their health within weeks. It's formulated by Morley Robbins, who created the root cause protocol that hundreds of thousands of people around the world have healed as a result of. I've personally been doing it for 8 years. This supplement is finally available in the UK after years of me trying to get hold of it, and you can now get it at yourhealthbasket.co.uk using code LaurenV10 for a 10% discount. That's yourhealthbasket.co.uk and code LaurenV10. Yeah. And it's nice because I've taken to following people on social media who offer that. You know, I do you know Daniela Rabbani? She's in New York. She's a good friend of mine, and I think you know, she has a passion and she has a deep connection to what's going on, deep personal connection, as do many of us. But how she shows up is always with love, always with compassion, always with an understanding for, quote unquote, the other side. And I love that about how she shows up with this. Something you talk about in your book, you call it become brave enough to wonder. And to me, that translated into stepping into the discomfort. And I wonder how important you think it is for people to almost push themselves past the discomfort of, if this work is brand new to you, it does feel very scary. Opening the work, starting the work can feel very triggering. What is the importance of being brave enough to wonder and stepping into the discomfort?
So being brave enough to wonder is not pushing past the discomfort. It's becoming open to it, becoming curious about it, compassionate towards it, being the non-judgmental witness of feelings that we may have been pushing past for so long. The pushing past is actually the problem. The solution is the gentle inquiry. And that gentle inquiry could be just picking up happy days. That gentle inquiry could just be listening to this podcast. That gentle inquiry could just be writing down in your journal, I'm willing to heal. It's healing trauma is not a pushing. It's not a forcing. It is a slow, gentle Passionate and calm healing journey. You cannot push.
Right. Are you referring to kind of, it's almost spiritual bypass when we do that?
Well, in this case, it might even be more detrimental than a spiritual bypass, right? A spiritual bypass is just like going over the trauma, right? Like meditating over it or sort of vibrating over it and getting to those frequencies that we can get to on our meditation pillow. And for many years, I did do this where I talk about it in the book where I would, Kundalini my way over the trauma. And yes, that was a protection mechanism for many years that helped me and not going to take anything away from it. But genuine healing is not getting over it and it's not pushing into it because pushing into it will just re-traumatize you. Pushing into it will just make you more scared. It will freeze you more. It will make you run. It might make you pick up a drink. It might make you just go into very scary places. So it's not a going over and it's not going in. It's a gentle curiosity and inquiry. And it's just having the willingness to say, I'm willing to gently, slowly titrate in and come back out. Here and come back out. Slow is the operative word.
And I know you've tried so many modalities and therapies, which I want to get onto because I find it fascinating. And also so many of the therapies that you have tried, I'm super interested in or have done myself. Was it a slow process for you finding each of those and starting each of those?
No, I mean, I think that, yes, it was. It has been a very slow journey. But at the same time, I think that it was all spiritually guided, right? Because I got sober first. I found my sober recovery. Then I had the same therapist now for the past 13 years, maybe longer at this point. But finding these different therapeutic modalities that I've used throughout my journey has been a spiritually guided path, right? That's where I know that, oh, that came in when I was ready for it, or that came in when I needed it most, or this was when I was safe enough to go to that place. And so I've just trusted the journey. I haven't really plotted it out.
Yeah. I've had Tammy on this podcast.
Yeah, Tammy's one of my therapists,
She's
one of my good
great,
friends.
isn't she?
Now she's my good friend. I kind of transitioned that relationship because I was like, I just love you too much to not be your friend.
She's brilliant. So
Yeah.
EMDR, which is one of the therapies. Will you talk a little bit about, I mean, we've got obviously the whole podcast episode on it, but how did EMDR help you specifically? Because I know that was really that kind of pivotal moment of the trauma.
EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. And here comes my cat. She wants to say hi.
Sweet.
What it does is it stimulates the bilateral brain functioning. So it opens up the brain's capacity to reprocess stagnant emotions, good or bad. And when you do EMDR with a therapist, pretty much you have like some kind of stimulation on both sides, right, left. So it's either buzzer in either ear or buzzer in either hand. And what that does is it stimulates both sides of the brain. And while you're doing that, you're talking about the emotional disturbance or just even something not even so specific to the trauma. Maybe you're just talking about an emotional feeling or a sensation. You don't have to go so deep into a memory. And what that does is it starts to unpack it from in your brain, but also in an emotional state. And it opens up the parasympathetic nervous system to start to settle, to start to process, and to give you a opportunity for sometimes even in a few sessions, just kicking something, right? Maybe not a big, deep trauma, but a small T trauma, like, a phobia of spiders or something can be released that quickly. EMDR offers a lot of relief when you're in your journey as well. So I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, I've done it myself. Had a similar situation to you, actually, having a realization of a trauma many years later. Like you, many modalities, many therapies. One of the therapies that you talk about a lot, and I think you're even trained in now, is IFS, internal family systems.
Yeah.
And I love hearing you talk about IFS. I'd love for you to explain about the parts and about IFS so that people can get an understanding.
Sure. Well, my 10th book is coming out on New Year's Eve, 24.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's called Self-Help. This is your chance to change your life. That's the book title.
Wow.
Self-Help. So it's all about democratizing IFS. It's an IFS informed book. I've internal family systems therapy. And I've taken the model and I've created my own 4-step process that is just informed by the model. It's not IFS in the book. It's teaching what IFS is and then giving people a taste of it through this self-help practice. So IFS, though, is actually a therapy that is done in a therapeutic setting with an IFS trained therapist. I recommend definitely working with someone who's been through the training in the Institute, but there's plenty of amazing therapists out there that are IFS informed. But it's important to know the difference. IFS is, again, internal family systems therapy. The thesis is that we have a family inside of us of lots of different parts of who we are. It's not about your outside family or your birth family. It's about the internal family of multiple parts of who we are, right? We've got a really strong, mothering part, or maybe we have a people-pleasing part. Maybe you've said to yourself, like, a part of me gets really outraged when I'm around my boss, right? So understanding that we have these different aspects of ourselves, and we're not just one mono person that's just one personality. We have a lot of personalities. And these personalities are like young children. And so they represent these extreme young parts of us that were traumatized. Those get locked up, and those parts are called exiles. And we do whatever we can to not have to face those feelings of shame or inadequacy. And we build up a lot of protection mechanisms, and those are called protector parts. And those protection mechanisms are like drinking, or they're over controlling, or workaholism, or people pleasing, or maybe even physical somatic problems that could actually be forms of protection, that we focus on the physical pain so we don't have to focus on the emotional disturbance. And so recognizing that there's not just one human that we are sitting here, but we have a lot of parts of who we are. And when we stop seeing those parts of us as bad, we stop shaming those parts of us or pushing past them, like we said before, but we become curious about them. We become compassionate towards them. What we start to do is develop an opening for what's known as self with a capital S. And that self is an undamaged, resourced, loving, compassionate, calm, and connected part of who we are. It is the source of love within us. It's the God within us. It's the spirit within us. And as we develop self can start to soothe and help those extreme protection mechanisms, the protector parts. I could do 3 hours on this. My next book, I've written an entire 70,000 word book that will be out on New Year's Eve. So stay tuned.
I mean, congratulations to you. 10 books. Unbelievable. Let's take a moment to just acknowledge that. I kind of see IFS, especially the exile parts, a lot like shadow work, which is just recognizing the parts of us that we haven't yet opened up to because they were created with the purpose of keeping us safe. Can you give an example of your protector parts? Because I like how you speak about this.
Sure. Yeah. So one of my so there's 2 different types of protectors. There's managers and firefighters. And the managers are the ones that are just with us on a day-to-day basis. So like a controlling part might be a manager, or a belief like, if I don't do it, nobody else will do it, could be a manager, just like doing everything to try to keep up. But a firefighter is like the alcoholic, the workaholic. It's the parts of us that come in very extreme ways to put out the fire when the managers can't keep it together. So I had the cocaine addict part that became sober at 25. And when she got sober, the controller and the workaholic got really extreme, right? So there was these protectors called workaholic and controller picked up the slack, right? And so we're working and controlling. And they're protection mechanisms that you may look at and be like, oh, that's so shameful, or you just, you should get over that. No, the work really is to befriend those parts of ourselves. And now, as a result of doing this work and practicing what I preach and what IFS preaches in the work of Richard Schwartz, we have this ability to start to befriend these younger parts of ourselves, bring self-energy to them. And in that, we start to allow those parts to be less extreme, soften, and we don't make them go away. We just help them be in their harmony and be in their best role.
Yeah. It just sounds very very nurturing. And do you think that that's part of the process, that you had to go first into those, the addictions and all of that, into kind of that space first, and then into the workaholic, the workaholic stage, and it was a process that you had to go through?
I do. I think that we look, I think that we all have these extreme parts of ourselves, and they'll get very extreme and they'll become firefighter elements, and they'll be fighting back the flames of those experiences from our past.
Mm.
But those firefighters are beautiful because they often bring us to our knees with addiction. Sometimes we can't carry on in life if we stay in those extreme firefighter places.
Mm.
So that's where I love that Rumi quote, "The wound is the place where the light enters you."
Mm.
Those extreme parts of us can bring us to our knees, and that's when the light can enter.
Yeah, I love that. You've obviously used quite a lot of therapies and modalities, and I wonder if there was kind of like a symbiosis to that, a point where you felt, yeah, this is the combination that works for me. Obviously, it would be different for everyone, but what was the combination of modalities that you found really worked?
Well, in Happy Days, I share my journey. I don't know that that's for everyone.
Yeah,
And
like I said,
I think that, yeah, it's very unique and individual. But I do think that for me, it originated with a lot of the somatic work. So somatic experiencing and EMDR and emotional freedom technique, which is known as
mm,
tapping. These were necessary for me to get my nervous system to a baseline of some sense of safety. And then as I started to develop a greater sense of that safety, I could do deeper work with IFS, and I could do deeper work with some more contemplative practices. But I had to have I had to have that somatic safety first. That might
mm,
not be the same for people, right? It's
yeah,
very different for different folks.
yeah.
Somatic safety has been so enhanced through the journey of IFS as well.
Mm. I agree, though. I do think for many people, going into the somatic work is, I just know that from my own journey, from coaching hundreds of women, the somatic work is a great place to start, because I think that and I have a lot of women that contact me who are physically suffering from a whole range of things. And often it is because of repressed emotions. And actually, I think I would go so far as to say a lot of the time it's because of
I
repressed
would go so
emotions.
far to say always.
Yeah, I always think it's a combination, because I think about, being diagnosed with arthritis at the age of 2. And people are like, well, it couldn't have been anything emotional then. And I'm like, no, 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 but it can. There could have been a whole range of things. But I'm just a believer of, through my journey, that everything is down to a culmination of many different factors. So there were environmental factors, there were, emotional stress factors, there were factors, because of, my mum's birth, and uh, all of these things, and I think it's noticing that it's never just one thing,
Yeah.
and it's a combination. However, many things can be stored in the body as a result of all of that.
And it's not that we can't contract things or that we can't be born with certain things, but what our nervous system sends, the messages that our nervous system sends to our body either contribute to these issues or they support these issues. Or it
Right.
supports these. So we can all be in agreement that having a settled nervous system and a calm presence, however we get there, will always be beneficial in any form of healing.
Right.
It will give us radical remission, although that is something that I believe to be an opportunity for folks. But what it will do is only support us.
Mm, yeah. And I love that you've mentioned about kind of bringing the nervous system back to balance. How has this work informed your parenting? Because I think that as a new generation of parents who perhaps we didn't get that support when we needed that, there's now, despite our parents maybe wanting to, just not having the resources, there's now this generation of us who do have this and are able to, because our children aren't going to escape trauma. Everyone comes into this world, with some sort of blueprint of experiencing something at some point. Um, so I wonder how you're using that with your own son.
Mm, I use it all the time. I'm making sure that my energy is strong because he's co-regulating with my energy. So I
Mm,
want to stay steady. I want to make repairs whenever I notice that maybe I could have taken him off kilter. And most importantly, I want him to feel loved and seen
mm,
and soothed by my presence.
yeah.
So I can undo my trauma and at the same time support his system so that even if whatever he experiences in his life, he can manage and I don't like the word manage, he can know intuitively how to move through because
Mm,
he has a steady safety inside.
mm. I don't know why the Zoom makes those funny. thumbs up and thumbs down pictures. If you're not watching on video, you won't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I very much agree with that. I'm so glad we've been able to speak so much about trauma, and I know people want you for, the other spirituality stuff and manifestation, meditation, all that great stuff. But I think this is such an important part of the process of, like we said before, manifestation, spirituality. So I'm so grateful to you for offering us your wisdom on navigating trauma with spirituality.
It's funny. I actually, when I wrote Happy Days, I said that this is actually my greatest book on manifestation yet.
Yeah, I get that.
Why? You get it, but I'll explain it to the listener. I know you get it. Because when we heal our internal condition, when we feel safe inside, when we develop that faith that we can heal, when we start to feel the experience of it, we become super attractors because we're no longer vibrating at a state of hypervigilance and fear, but we're now in an energy that is calm and centered and connected.
Yeah, what a beautiful note to end on. Before we end, just quick rapid fire round, which I call All About You. The first one is always the same, and that's wellness is
inner harmony.
I like that. I haven't heard that one before. Something that surprised you about your spiritual journey.
That I am much more psychic than I thought.
Ooh, nice. If you could raid the brain of one person and retain all their knowledge, who would it be?
Oh, Barack Obama.
Oh, wow. Yeah. One or two of the most profound things you learned from Louise Hay.
To love myself, love myself, love myself. That's it. That's the whole thing.
Oh, what a beautiful being she was. One thing about motherhood that has completely shocked you since becoming a mother.
Good question. I think I'm constantly a little bit surprised by how much these small people really know and feel. It's so big.
Yeah, it really is. I agree. Last one. Who's going to play you in a movie?
I don't know. Who do you think?
I don't know. I actually just started. I was like, oh, I should have thought about that before myself. I don't know who's going to play it. We'll have to, maybe we'll think about that and come back to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I have a few people in mind.
Yeah. Who's the first one?
No, I don't want to say it.
Okay, fine. We're going to come back to it. Gabby, thank you so much. Thank you for your books. Thank you for your wisdom. Thank you for your knowledge. Thank you for sharing it so generously. And we're both going to be at the Happy Place Festival on the 13th and 14th of July. So hopefully where people can come see you there as well. And yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. And I have my event, my manifestation masterclass in London a few days after that. So
okay. What date's that?
That is, let's see, I'm gonna make sure I have it in front of me. I think it's the following Wednesday. That's what I'll give you some notes for. The Manifestation Masterclass is in London on the 17th. The Manifestation Masterclass is on the 17th, Wednesday night.
Okay, I'll make sure to add all the details to the show notes so people can get on there. And yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. This was such a gorgeous conversation. I really appreciate you. And I'm glad the video worked and we made it happen.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Reconditioned. I am honestly so grateful to each and every person that tunes in. Thank you also for taking responsibility for your own well-being. You should know that just by choosing to listen to podcasts like this that further your well-being, you're moving more deeply into abundance consciousness. Now, don't forget, I have a bunch of free resources over at laurenvakneen.co.uk, as well as every recommendation you could ever need in regards to your well-being on the LV Recommends page, all categorized for your ease. Thank you also to our sponsors. These episodes would not be possible without them, so make sure to check them out and get some pretty awesome discounts on the show notes. And of course, make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so that you can get updated each time a new one is released. Thank you. I appreciate you.